All right, let's bring in our military analyst, Sean Bell, for more on this. Afternoon to you, Sean. So what's the latest on this new front?
Yeah, come on, it's been interesting, hasn't it? There's been fierce fighting across in the Kharkiv region. Russia's claimed that it seized 9 settlements up near Vovchansk, as we've been hearing from Deborah, and Lipsy across at the top there. Now, Ukraine has known for months that Russia's been building massing forces in the region, between 30 and 50,000 troops. But, of course, as was intimated in that report, the West won't allow the Ukrainians to use Western-supplied weapons on Russian soil, and that's limited their ability to react. It's worth remembering all this area in Ukraine had been taken by the Russians just after the invasion back in February last year. By May, the Ukrainians had liberated Kharkiv. By September, they'd swept the Russians out of the area. But now it seems the pendulum's swinging back again. It's also worth quoting, it's not all going the Russians' way, though. We've just seen some video footage released overnight. This is an attack in Belgorod, but the Ukrainians did it, a combination of missile and some artillery strikes. Apparently, there were 15 people killed and 20 injured in this attack.
Interesting. OK, now, what's the overall strategy, do we think, of Russia to launch this new front?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a second front, which is quite worrying. And although we don't know, clearly that's in the mind of President Putin, there's two real options, one of which the most dangerous one is this signifies the change of strategy by Putin and actually going for Kyiv long term. And actually, therefore, and Kharkiv will be a stepping stone on the route to Kyiv. Now, that will be incredibly dangerous. If you want to subjugate the whole of Ukraine, that's the way you do it. But it's not believed that the Russians have the military might or the resources to do that and sustain the attack down here. So it looks very unlikely. What seems much more likely is, so we go back to the more zoomed-in map. You remember Belgorod, we've been talking a lot, it's a Russian logistics hub. It's only about 20k north of the border, which means it's just within range of the artillery of Ukraine. It's been regularly attacked. Putin said he's going to build a buffer zone, pushing the Ukrainian forces further south, and that appears to be what he's been doing around Vovchansk. And likewise in Lipsy, he wants to get his artillery close enough to Kharkiv to attack, and therefore pushing south. All of that, though, is tactics. Strategically, by having a second front, it forces Ukraine to move some of its forces up there, makes them more vulnerable in the Donbass, which we still believe is Russia's main effort.
Interesting stuff. And look, we had news yesterday as well that Putin is going to replace his defence minister. What do we understand about this? Who's the new man in charge?
Yeah, so Sergei Shoigu, seen here behind Putin, been in post as the defence minister for 12 years, since 2012. He's part of Putin's inner circle. Putin's always valued his loyalty rather than his competence. He's never been seen as particularly competent. What's fascinating, he's regularly seen in military uniform, normally in the rank of general. He's never served in the military at all, and therefore you just can only imagine what the dynamics...
Decorated too.
No, exactly. The dynamics between him when he's dealing with his military subordinates. He's been replaced by Andrei Belousov, who's a 65-year-old. He used to be deputy prime minister. He's also got a background in economics. So the question is, why has that happened now? It might be ill health. It might be a whole number of things. It may be just Putin starting his new term. But actually, from a military perspective, it does seem to make a lot of sense. The scale of this war is immense. Industrialising the Russian economy to create the war machine behind him. This man will have much better skills and experience to do that and try to, because let's face it, Russia's now spending 7% of its GDP on defence, making sure that it can deliver the resources that are required to the front line. That's almost certainly why he's in place.
Okay, Sean, appreciate the analysis as always. Thank you very much for that, Sean Bell there.